welcome to Soul Symbols. My name is Shelley. I am a writer, an astrologer, and a card reader, and I welcome you back to my channel. I host readings on Tuesdays and on Saturdays. On Tuesdays, I do what I call my How to Tarot series, and what I do is I take, starting with the Major Arcana, I take each week we study the symbols in one card from the traditional 78 card tarot, and we analyze the symbols, and after we've gone over what the symbolism means, I go ahead and let you choose. I pick the best image from 3 different tarot decks, and I let you choose which image or which stone you would like to go with that coordinates with the deck that I chose the card from. And after you choose your deck, I will go ahead and perform a reading to show how that tarot card is manifesting in your life. This could be the energy overall, or it could be just a situation that's going on in your life that's represented by the card. And this week we are analyzing the Emperor. So to begin, I wanted to go through some quick announcements. I wanted to first thank everyone for their support. I am new to YouTube. I've studied astrology for a long time, and I've studied cards for several years. But I have a beloved following now of 7 subscribers, and I just feel so very blessed. I am very grateful for every single one of you, and I thank you for supporting my channel. To begin, I wanted to just let you know I am keeping the Halloween tablecloth. To be honest, I kind of I sew in addition to card reading, and I really just love the way that it looked. It's custom fit to my table, and this table is actually this was actually created by my great-great-grandfather, so it's a very special working space, and it has such good energy. And I just wanted to keep the Halloween tablecloth for a little bit longer. In addition to the Halloween tablecloth, starting on Saturday, I did do I have a bag giveaway. So on Saturday I did the Who's Haunting You video. And with that, I had announced that I had done a bag giveaway. We don't have any commenters yet. What's happening is if you leave a comment on that video, you are entered to win the bag. But in addition, I think because I am such a new channel, and I only have a few followers, and I would want to open this up to anybody who would want to enter for the bag. I'm trying to figure out how to post like just there's a way that you can kind of post just a photograph, kind of like you would like a social media post, not a video but just a picture, and I'm still figuring out how to do that. So I appreciate your patience, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to post a regular YouTube post and kind of open it up to anyone who would like to enter to win the bag, because I know that's kind of a specific gift, but it is quite beautiful. And I'm also going to be doing more of that. I'm going to be doing dice bag giveaways and card bag giveaways and eventually tote bag giveaways. So I hope that you will stay tuned for that. Now, just in some quick announcements, I had done I am kind of getting used to the verbiage. Being so new as a channel, I do appreciate everyone's patience as I kind of learn the right words to describe things. I am going to change the name of the weekly video to the weekly energy card reading video. And just the reason being is to give some clarification. A lot of readers use similar terminologies, but I definitely just want to be respectful of the terms that other readers use, and I do not mean to infringe at all. So I'm just just trying to find the best way to describe what it is that I do. Like all readers, we try to make it as clear as possible. And what it is the How to Tarot is a card reading, but it's a description of the cards first. And then the weekly energy card reading is your week, but I'm just pulling, I'm getting a vibe of what you are feeling, and going with that current energy, getting an idea of what your week will look like. It's not predicting the future, it's just saying, okay, this is how you feel with that energy being as it is, this is how your week might unfold. And I truly enjoy doing those. And on that note, this last weekend, the 26th, the same day that I did the Who's Haunting You video, which is just a fun Halloween post. I did do I did the weekly energy card reading, and the very first deck, and that's the other thing I'm gonna get better about terminology with that too. When you're picking a deck, I will call it a deck. If it is pre-dispensed, it will be a pile, so I'm gonna get better about that. But last week on, or just a few days ago on Saturday at the 26th, the first deck, the Everyday Tarot deck, that group was going to have a little bit more of a mental week. And I've been worried about you guys. Honestly, I'm wondering if that, I sometimes pick a pile or pick a deck after you do, like after the video's been up a few days, I might go back and see what deck I'm gravitating towards to see if I'm part of your group for the week. But I was a little worried about deck number one. It was just a really kind of blue energy. It seemed kind of like they were just gonna have a real mentally kind of conflicted week. And I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. There are some astrological transits that are going on right now that might contribute to that. And what they are is, it's a, right now Venus is going into the late degrees of Scorpio, and Mercury is going into also the late degrees of Scorpio, and it's about to go retrograde. And everyone always, you hear about this all the time, Mercury retrograde. It gets blamed for a lot of things, rightly so though too. And what it is it's the planet of communication and getting the mental work done. And what it does is when it goes retrograde, it looks like it's moving backwards in the sky. And when a planet is retrograde, it does mean that communication kind of goes to crap for a little while. It's not in a bad way. The way I always think about it is, anytime you see retro, think of RE. Anything that begins with RE are good things to do during a Mercury retrograde. That means revisit, restore, reorganize, reprocess, recycle. It's basically any problems. The thing that I love about it, it's almost like a reset button. There you go, RE again. It's like a reset button. You get to go back and visit anything hasn't worked, and that can be technology, that can be paperwork, that can be, I've noticed that anytime I've lost something, like if I misplaced something like a year ago, Mercury retrogrades are the best time to come across something. Just today, and true story, I had a shopping app. It was Joanne Fabrics. I had been locked out of that sucker for like 3 months. I couldn't remember the password. I changed the password, and it's funny, and I work in customer service for technology issues, and I totally forgot my password. And believe it or not, I remembered it today. On a whim, I was ready to reset the sucker, honestly. I was tired of it. And so I empathize. It's like, God, but I finally figured it out. And so basically, if you've had like computer problems, if you've had a pain in the butt computer problem that has been plaguing you for a long time, the moment Mercury goes retrograde, go at that, because you could probably get it solved. Also, if you're missing anything, if there's something that's gone, AWOL and you need to find it, this is a great time to do that. So, and then Scorpio rules kind of transformation. It's the planet that's not afraid of anything. So if you really need to dig deep or revisit something that's a little bit, and coming up on Halloween, deep stuff that you really haven't wanted to face, now would probably be a good time to do it during a Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. And now the other side of this is, and this is what I wanted to touch on regarding deck number one from the weekly energy card reading, is Venus is also in the late degrees of Scorpio. And what happens is, anytime you have a chart, like your astrological chart, it's more than just your sun or your moon. Anytime you read your horoscope, you're reading about your sun. And honestly, horoscopes are a lot more accurate if you read it by your rising, by the way. If you know what your rising is, read that. That's, if you're going to read a horoscope in the back of a magazine, go with your rising. It's a lot more accurate, I promise you. But aside from that, you have a rising, you have a sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, you have 12 planets. And if you have any of those 12 planets that are in a late degree, like anywhere from 21 degrees to 29 degrees of either Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, or Scorpio, you are going to be feeling the fact that Mercury is retrograde in late Scorpio, and Venus is not retrograde, but it's late Scorpio as well. And what I wanted to caution is that I'm thinking that my deck number 1 from Saturday might have a few Saturn people. And I wanted to just shout this out, because what happens is anytime Mercury makes a transit, it's going through the sky and it makes a square, it makes a challenging aspect to your Saturn. Same thing with Venus. And with both of them being so close in degree, they're acting like one. It's like conjunct. When something is at the same degree, it becomes merged. It's like two things, acting in the same energy because they're in the same place in the sky. So if you have a Saturn, and I just wanted to call this out, if you are born, and of course this can be further back, I'm not just going to limit my audience to those who were born from 1970 on, but just to call out and let you know, you have a Taurus in those degrees. You have a Saturn in Taurus if you were born between August 1970 and August 71 of 71. You have a Leo and Saturn, if you were late 77 to 78, and then if you have an Aquarius, a late Aquarius Saturn, if you were March 1993 to around March 1994. So what's happening is, and that I really saw it with your deck last week, where with Mercury moving backwards and then going forwards, normally the Mercury square to your Saturn gives you, you've heard of rose-colored glasses. Mercury squaring your Saturn gives you gray-colored glasses. It makes you, the beautiful thing about Saturn is that Saturn usually makes you recognize the hard-earned lessons in your life. But the problem is Saturn also will make you feel like there's no good either. It kind of makes you see the more serious sides of life. And the fact that it's going to be in the late degrees of Scorpio, and then it's going to be moving backwards because it's retrograde, and then moving forwards means that it's going to be a good 3 weeks of making that square. Normally, if your Mercury is, when Mercury transits, it's a very fast moving planet. You might be feeling kind of blue. You might be seeing no good in the world for probably about 3 to 5 days, which is no big deal. You can, that's a blue spell. But whenever it's 3 weeks, that's a little bit longer, and it's, it's going over your Saturn, coming back, going over it again. It's a little bit more of a karmic lesson. Now, I don't want you to be afraid of that, but I just want you to take extra care to not be so gloomy. And I know that's hard, and believe me, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you, so you're not alone. But what it's going to do is it's going to make you think, in the fact that the fact that Venus is squaring it too, you're going to feel like you're alone, is what it's going to make you feel like. And it has a purpose. Every square has a purpose. What it does is it makes you look at your relationships in a very, very realistic light. Saturn does that. But the problem is the fact that it's going to be doing it for 3 weeks straight. You need to, what I'm going to advise for anyone who picked deck number 1 from Saturday, and anyone who, look at your Saturn if you are squaring Mercury and Venus right now, or you're affected by the Mercury retrograde. Again, look for anything that you can revisit. Any problems that have been technological, maybe your computer's had this weird glitchy thing for 3 years now, tackle that. If you're filing your taxes, tackle that. Anything that has RE in the beginning, revisit, revamp, rekindle. If you have to start something new, if you have to send something and it's a brand new problem, a brand new event, send it twice. Like if you have to fax something, better twice than not at all, especially during a Mercury retrograde. But the last thing that I'm going to ask you to do, and this is just a favor to me, if you did pick pile 1, or if you are going through a Saturn, if this Mercury and Venus transit is squaring your Saturn, do a smile of the day. And I do this on my Facebook. Anyone who knows my Facebook, so the smile of the day is where each day, look around you and find one thing that made you smile. And I know it seems a little cheesy. It seems a little like, I look in the mirror and say, I like myself. I've done this for years, and it's amazing. And I actually got inspired to do this because you know how when you go to Thanksgiving and you always say, what are you thankful for? And everyone's like, friends and family, friends and family. I'm thankful for my dog. You know, when you do a smile of the day, it's very, very specific. You saw something in your environment. Like, I remember, you know, I'll smile when I see a dragonfly. The other day, I actually in the energies, in the weekly energy reading, I talked about how I find feathers and pennies whenever I'm where I'm supposed to be. I helped a friend move over the weekend, and I found both a feather and a penny, and a shiny one, a shiny penny. And those are actually pennies from heaven. Those are pennies from my dad. So that was my smile of the day. So what I'm asking you to do is, if you are kind of if you've got the gray tinted glasses on because your Saturn's being affected by these transits, or you picked deck number 1 from the weekend, please, for the next week, for the next 7 days, each day, find something that you saw that really lifted your spirits, that was out of the ordinary, that made you smile. You know, maybe you saw a small child doing something really cute. Maybe, you know, you just, you know, you went through the coffee drive-through and someone paid for your coffee and you paid it forward and you kept the trend going. Whatever little thing really lit up your day and stood out, make note of it. Make note of it, because again, you're gonna feel a little bit gloomy because of the transit. You're gonna be looking at things in a very austere way, and some of the transits are doing that, but don't take it too much to heart, and find a smile of the day. And it'll help this transit go a little bit better, because everything is not as bad as it seems, but there's gonna be no, again, Saturn has its purpose. It's meant for you to take off the rose-colored glasses, but it's not meant to make you miserable. So, but that is just my advice, and I wanted to get that out there because I was really deck number 1. You were on my mind. I was a little worried. So, you know, promise me you'll do that. Smile of the day. All right, so that was my intro. That was a little longer than normal, but the timestamps are in the description box below. So I'm saying that a little bit late, but you know, I will reiterate that. But I have my 3 favorite, I've picked my 3 favorite emperors, so we'll go ahead and get started. Now, as I How to Tarot, the first deck I will always use is the Rider-Waite Smith. And the deck that I have for Rider-Waite Smith is a reproduction from the A.G. Mueller. It's actually a German printer that it's just very clear images. The Pamela Smith was the artist of the Rider-Waite Smith, and a lot of her artwork for the original tarot got lost, like the plates for the original artwork got lost during the Second World War. And so a lot of the decks that you see on the market now are reproductions, and they're very blurry. This one it doesn't have what they call her pixie font, which is her handwriting. It has a different font, but the images are very, very clear, and that's why I went with this deck, and it's actually an international deck. But that is our Emperor number 1, and that is the traditional Rider-Waite Smith Emperor. To pair with each of the decks, I went with stones, and I did this with the Empress, and I thought I had to do it with the Emperor, right? So what we got is this is a red jasper horse, and he kind of looks like a Roman horse, and we'll get into that in a minute. So deck number 1 is the Rider-Waite Smith with the red jasper Trojan horse, or Trojan Roman horse. See, you see where I'm thinking. The second deck is Morgan-Greer, and I know Morgan-Greer is always one of my favorites. You would think I am trying to trade up the decks. I'm legitimately going with the best. You know, as the Major Arcana continues, I will be using different decks, but it just so happens that the Emperor from the Morgan-Greer, you know, is one of my favorites, and the Morgan-Greer is the deck that I've formally learned tarot on. And so you see that there, it's a very 70s image, and we'll go over that in a minute. And with the Morgan-Greer, you got another red jasper. This one's a little bit of a darker red jasper, but I had to go with an eagle. And what I love about this guy is that you can set him this way, if you can see that. He sets on his side, he sets like this, or he can set like this. But I like it when he seems to be on his side. It just seems like, you know, majestic. It's a power animal. All right. And then the third one, and this was a tough choice. I had a few decks that were vying for the third, but I went ahead and went with the LineStrider Tarot by Siolo Thompson, and I hope I'm saying her name right. But, and this is, I just thought it was just, and again, when we get into the symbolisms, we'll go in. And this is actually the stone that I keep with this deck anyway, but you got the tiger's eye bear, and just like a bear can be, it's a papa bear. He's a tough bear. And I love how the tiger's eye, you turn it one way and it's dark colored, and then the other way it's a light color. And what I'm going to do is, after we go through the symbolism, we'll get into the readings. But to go ahead and get started, the Emperor, we had talked in the Empress about how she is the nurturer, how she's in the garden of life. And now you get into Major Arcana number 4, you get into the Emperor. And the Emperor is one of my favorite guys. He is the counterpart to the Empress. And what he is just like the Empress is the Queen of Queens. She is the matriarch of nations, several nations. The Emperor is, and it's amazing, you would think that an emperor would trump her, but no. This is her counterpart. This is her equal. This is her masculine parallel. And this is the Emperor. And you can see the Emperor, you can tell he's with the, you see on each of his edges of his throne, which is like a concrete, solid, square throne, is the symbol of the ram. And there is red all over this card. And he is ruled by the sign of Aries. And the symbol of Aries is the ram. And I've worked with several Aries, and it's funny, I'm a Libra, sun sign Libra conjunct Pluto, so I'm a really tough Libra. But I've known my fair share of Aries, and I love it, and I kind of giggle because, as the Empress has the Venus sign, Aries are, I've always giggled because Aries can be, hotheads. They like to be first. They're the trailblazers. It's called the me first sign. It's the I sign, right? And they are a little bit like a baby, but not in a baby way. It just means that they go into the world ready to try new things, and they don't really think about others. They think about, okay, what can I do? How can I do this, right? And the funny thing that I've always loved about Aries is that I always joke about this. They are very much like the ram in the fact that I always think, and I always think of it this way. Okay, you've seen two rams. When ram, they call them kids. When they're baby rams that are playing with each other, they'll knock heads against each other. They just kind of like boom. And I've noticed that every single Aries I've ever met is like that. What they do is it's almost like a test of your character. They'll come up and they'll kind of butt heads with you. And then if you stick around, or if you rub your head and look at them like they're nuts, like, why the heck did you do that? They'll kind of respect you more. It's kind of like, I like you, I just whacked the crap out of you when you stuck around. It's almost like they respect you for standing up to them. And I kind of get that sense with the Emperor. You can tell he doesn't look like a soft guy. Now, you can tell he doesn't like any disrespect, but you can tell that if you act wavering or you waffle, do you think this guy is going to give you any moment of his time? You know what I mean? And it's a very Aries energy. It's like, okay, you need to step up, you need to take action. Now, all of the red and the fire and his cape and cloak and the length of his beard, and it's interesting, you see, similar to the Empress, she had this crown. It was like bigger than a crown. It was like more than just a queen. He has like the symbol of maturity with the beard, and then he also seems to have this elaborate crown. Now the scepter, and it's similar in all three, the scepter has always looked like, and I always say this wrong, it looks so much like the scepter that's held by the Egyptian god of the afterlife, like the Egyptian god that lives forever. I think it's called, if I'm spelling it correctly, it's an Antk, but it means like living forever. And it's interesting, and in a minute I'll go through the different types of emperors, but what you do is when you look at the background, you see, just like the Empress was in a field that was very fertile, you see almost kind of barren mountains, and you see a very red sky. And again, he has rams everywhere, and you can see he's ironclad, and he's sitting on such a solid throne. And the same with the Morgan-Greer. You see the mountains in the background. And in Lenormand, there is actually, mountains mean challenge, but they also mean structure. And that's one thing that definitely the emperor represents, is he represents the building of something, the establishment. Oh, good word, establishment. And in the Morgan-Greer, you see the eagle. And actually in a lot of decks, and a lot of the original decks from, the 1300s from Italy and Europe, that the original tarot, the eagle it's usually a black eagle, and it means masculinity. It's the family crest. It is the patriarch. And if I had to say it, it's the man. The emperor is the man. He is, he's the establishment. He is, if you want a family, you need to be able to support a family. And if you have a family, you make the rules. He is the guy's guy. And you see that with the red, you see that with the armor. And definitely it rules the Roman Empire as well. And when you think about it, it's like, okay, just like an emperor he rules more than just one realm. And you think of Roman conquerors like Julius Caesar or Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan. But on top of that, you think of self-assertion, and that's a very Aries concept. Remember how I said they'll butt heads and be like, okay, you still here? And I'll tell you, that's different from Scorpio. After talking about all that Scorpio transit, I always joke about this. The great thing about Aries too, and believe me, I'm opposite to Aries in a lot of ways. They, it drives me a little crazy, the impulsiveness, the leaping first and thinking second doesn't really go well with my Aries temperament, with my Libra temperament. But one thing that I love about Aries is the fact they don't stay mad long. Have you ever fired up the grill, and you know how you spray on all of the lighter fluid and then you throw the match in and it just seems to flame up and take your eyebrows off? That is an Aries temper. When they flame up, they'll say all sorts of crap to you, they'll piss you off, they'll get mad, they'll stomp around. But the greatest thing is, the moment that flame dies back down, which is usually pretty darn quick, you're back to being their friend. They're like, oh, okay, sorry about that. Your eyebrows will grow back, I promise. But Scorpios are not the same. Scorpios, you piss them off or cross them or betray them, they won't stop until they'll wait and punish. Aries will let it just roll. If there's a slight, and the Emperor is not. He is kind of like that temper, but I think he being the ruler of other kingdoms, he knows what it is. And that's the other thing about it, is that he's not just the ruler of one kingdom, he's the ruler of many. And when you're the ruler of many kingdoms, you know what it's like to have to talk to other kings. He's kind of like, when I think of it, he does represent the world, the world of masculine power. He rules maturity. And when you look at him, you think CEO, right? When you think of a room full of business owners, you think of the Emperor. If you think of a CEO of a company who has to manage several other heads of the department within his large institution, you think of the Emperor. When you think of, dominion, or the need to create something in a very, masculine status quo way, so you think of the Emperor. One thing I wanted to bring up there was an emperor in China who ruled between like 310 and 309 BC. I always pronounce his name wrong. I'll put it on the video. But he was, again, he was an emperor. He owned several, he dominated China. He owned several realms. He was probably one of the first emperors to really conquer so much of that area of the world. And what had happened was, just like the Egyptian kings, he wanted to live forever. He did not want to give up his rule. And he later decided to take his armies with him, and what he did is he believed by making statues of his army, everyone, all of his archers, all of his horses, he even made statues of the girls who fed the horses. It's like what he did is it's the terracotta soldiers from ancient China. They found them in the 70s while digging up. And what he did was he created an entire army of terracotta soldiers, and he buried it under the ground, almost like an Egyptian king. And he sat in front of his army and he took them into the afterlife. I'll post pictures, but it was great. I actually drove 3 hours and I went to see them when they were at a museum in Southern Virginia. I was so excited to see it. It was amazing. But when I think of that, I think that was an emperor. He wanted, it was his reign. It was like thousands upon thousands of statues that all served him. And it's just, so when you see the emperor, when he comes up in a reading, what you think is, you think the patriarch, you think the establishment of a family line, you think of, bringing security in a masculine way, just like the empress is the grandmother who nurtures everyone. The emperor is the one who keeps that roof over the head and keeps the money coming and takes care of everyone in that manly way. And then you do also think of organization. You think of, creating order and, sticking to a plan. You think of a leadership. You think of a leader of leaders. When you think of, institutions, business institutions, this could be a mentor. This can be someone that you look up to that is, the ruler of a company. It is also, it's kind of setting standards for behavior, for male behavior in particular. A lot of times if you see a page next to the emperor, one thing that also comes to mind that I knew I wanted to mention is there was only one time that I ever thought, one scene that always epitones the emperors, I would see my dad and my uncle and, all of my cousins. And, my dad was the head of our household. He was the man, right? He ran our household. He was the epitome of respect. And then the only time that things would ever, anytime, the only person that would feel like an emperor to a king is when we would sit down and my grandfather, like if we all went out to eat as a family, and I have a very military family, by the way, too. It's like when all my uncles, great uncles, dad, we had Marine, Air Force, we had, it was like sitting around the table, sitting down to dinner with a bunch of generals, really. But when my grandfather sat down and when the bill came, the men of the family would be whipping out the wallet, and it's like, it was just a motion of the hand, like, put the wallet away. And all of the kings, my dad, my uncle, all of the kings put the wallet away because the emperor was like, no. This is, I invited you out to dinner. It's like that man, and it's not even like you want to cross him, but it's like, it's those minute, I think of that when I think of the emperor, it's those minute little actions, and you can almost see it in the Morgan-Greer. It's like, put the wallet away. This is my kingdom, I'm your patriarch. I'm the patriarch of patriarchs, and, I've got this, and you don't question that, you don't cross that because he's the emperor. There's a reverence there. There's a respect because, that's how you feel. You're following a regime. It's you respect his authority. Now, when you get into the reverse of the emperor is where it gets really, really interesting. And the reverse of the emperor is everything that we describe when whenever something is inverse or anytime a card is crossed, that is the Emperor in a blocked energy or an Emperor in the negative energy. And what that can mean is, a lot of times if you see the Emperor in reverse, and especially depending on the cards around it, it can get a little scary because the Emperor is control. The Emperor is control. He rules the roost, right? He is the man. He is the institution. He is the establishment. And if you look at that in the reverse, the immediate thing that you can think of is control in its negative form. Control in its negative form can be a tyrant. It can be someone who controls for the sake of being a bully. It can be someone who is not ruling very well. It can be someone who, in a very extreme, depending on what's around it, it can be someone who's acting cowardly or someone who's abusing their power. It could be, it could be someone who's subject to a parental kind of negative masculine influence. And I empathize a lot with the Emperor too, because not many things have changed. And it's funny, I have several author friends who have written great books about the coming of age for young males is way harder. And it's always been a hard subject, but it's like what it means to be a man, right? And when you hit like 12, 13, 14, the examples of positive masculinity for men who are coming of age is a difficult thing. And sometimes you can see the Emperor in reverse as being someone who is kind of forcing that kind of energy on someone, like, someone who's almost hazing someone else. But the other thing is, the rites of transforming from a boy to a man is also a very reverent one as well. In many cultures, there's ceremonies, there's things that you can't be subject or coddled by your mother for so long. Eventually, you will have to be shown the ways of how you will become the Emperor. But definitely, in its negative form, it can be, it can either be someone who's really overly controlling. It can be a real control freak if you see the Emperor in reverse. Either that, or it can be someone who's spiraling out of control, who has no control, or it can be someone who's coming across in a very almost, cowardly way. But the Emperor is a very strong card, and again, shout out to all my Aries. I'm a Libra person, and I respect my other half. There would be no balance and peace if there were no action and trailblazers in this world. And again, if you want to come up and headbutt me, I'll think it's a little crass at first, but I'll understand, and I'll definitely stick around because I'm nothing scares me. I've got a Scorpio rising. But so that's the symbolism of the Emperor. And to go ahead and get into our readings, I'm going to go ahead, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to freeze frame, and I'm going to let you pick your piles. I'm going to let you pick your decks. I've been better with the terminology. You pick your deck, and what I will do is I will pick 3 cards from that deck, and I will clarify with the cards around. The clarifiers that I have today is the Soul Journeys Lesson cards by James de Praagh, if I'm saying his name right. We also have the Nova cards, and the name, again, I always mispronounce the author's name. He's such a wonderful person. I will put that in the description box below. And then this is another Norman deck. And I'm going to go ahead, this is a German Lenormand deck, and this is going to be another clarifier. And again, I never pronounce it right, but I will put the description and the link for if you choose to buy it in the description box below. But I'll go ahead and give you a minute to decide, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so deck number 1, we're going to go ahead and, again, I feel ashamed. I don't want to block my emperors. I'll put the eagle on his shoulder. There we go. Put the bear next to him. There we go. And so, Rider-Waite Smith. How does the Emperor manifest in your life? All right. Okay. So deck number 1. How does the Emperor manifest in your life? Deck number 1. Okay. Deck number 1, Rider-Waite Smith. So you got some interesting energies here. The way the Emperor manifests in your life, and again, this can be the overall energy or it can be a current situation, is you got Temperance, you got the 9 of Pentacles, you got the Queen of Wands. For your lesson card, you got Indecision. And then for your Lenormand, you got the Tower and you got Clouds. These are beautiful decks. This is a gorgeous deck, by the way. It's by a German artist on Etsy. And then in the Nova cards, you got the Wife and you got Space. And one thing with the Nova cards is that the Nova deck is split up into black and white and burgundy. The burgundy is the negative expression. The black and white is the positive expression. And so what I'm seeing here is Temperance is about the balancing of 2 elements. And it's a very Libra kind of card, but well, not necessarily. It actually, I think, is ruled by Aquarius, or Sagittarius. But what it means is it means the mixing of 2 opposite elements. It means making peace. A lot of readers read it as recalibration. And the fact that you've got an angel here and you look at the radiance around the angel's head, they're balancing. They know how to balance or make peace, of a situation. It's bringing a positive resolution to something. Now, the 9 of Pentacles is one of my favorite cards, and actually, I talked about this in the weekly energy card reading, but you see she's an independent person. You can see that you can tell by the way she's dressed, she's well off, and she's self-sufficient. You don't see anyone else in this garden with her. The garden is in the bloom of spring. She's got trees, tall trees. She's got grapes in full, full fruit, ready to be plucked. And then at her feet, she's got all these pentacles. And one thing that I love is that if you look at her bird is one of those trained falcons. And what it means is that's one of the most important elements of this card, is because it means control. And if you look at it, we talked about red, and you see how the red is in her cloak, and the red is in the covering of, there's a little, with those falcons, if you ever watch one of those videos, they have a mask that comes over their eyes, and when they take the mask off, the falcon is trained. It knows how to fly and come back to the person. And you see she has a gloved hand in it. It's, she is in control. She is self-sufficient. She doesn't need anything. And then on top of it, you got the Queen of Wands. The Queen of Wands is also, she is a vibrant, she's a creative person. So what I see is, I see someone who is a very self-made, now it's showing a lot, I'm seeing a lot of female energy, but of course you can be a man watching this reading. It doesn't make it, gender is not specific, but it is coming through as very feminine. And I do get the sense that the way the Emperor manifests in your life is that you balance and you're self-sufficient and you have a control. You don't really need anything in your life. You've come to a place where you've earned what you have. You're a very creative person, and the Queen of Wands is just extremely vibrant. She's a sunny person. She's a very warm person. But you see how, if you look next to the Emperor, you see how, look at the posture. You know what I mean? The Empress, I'm sorry, the Queen of Wands doesn't slouch. Neither does the Nine of Pentacles. And I think the way that the Emperor manifests in your life is just that, you know, and the Temperance is a major arcana, so is the Emperor, but I just get this feeling like, you know how when, you know, you have this control that is that's so silent, it's such an undercurrent of everything you do, that you got your stuff together. That's all I can say, is you got your stuff together. You know what you want, you know how to get it, and when things don't go right, you know how to just balance, you know how to pour those opposing elements and get it to where it's supposed to be. And that's the other thing, is you make it look easy. You make it look easy, you know? And so I think that I'm also getting this vibe that you have fine things, you have fine clothes. I'm really getting a sense of good clothes. The Queen of Wands is a very well dresser, and she always just, there's a positive energy when you get around the Queen of Wands. She's just very, you get kind of a jolt of happiness, and you can see it with her sunflower. And I just think that, yeah, you're a stylish dresser, and you know the quality of fine things, but you also know what it takes to get that. And anytime things start to get rocky, you know how to hold those reins in the situation with your life. And you're very self-sufficient. I just get this, very self-sufficient. You really don't need anything in life. You earn your own. You earn your own. Now, your oracle, your lesson card, you got indecision. I use my intuition in all aspects of my life, and this definitely looks like it's in tune with the Temperance. I get the feeling that I don't think it's that you never feel indecision. I think you definitely do, but you don't let it rack your life. You know what I mean? I think that's where the Emperor comes in too, is that the Emperor doesn't let anything rattle him. You know what I mean? That's kind of and that is a manly energy too. It's like when life starts getting rough, and that's a very Aries thing too. It's like, ooh, yay, you know. It's almost like, oh, okay, you know. It's almost, the Emperor almost kind of relishes when things get, it kind of shakes things up when things get a little bit, you know, on the rocky side. But I see that it isn't that you don't get, you know, that you don't have moments of indecision. You definitely do, but you don't let it shake your composure. Not at all. Either that, or you never let anybody see you sweat, is what I'm hearing too. You never let anybody see you sweat. Now, to get into your Nova cards, you went ahead and got wife, which symbolizes care, comfort, nurturing, a good home space, and a successful partnership. And then you also got space, which I'm just going to go ahead and read it. I love these cards. I'm still getting used to the, you know, the blind definitions, but the cosmos in all its variety, the final frontier, vast opportunities for exploration. So I really get the feeling like, you know what I'm kind of feeling is that I'm getting the vibe that you're a single woman, but you get what you want. You get what you want. And if you decided that you wanted to get into a relationship, if you wanted to get married tomorrow, you could, honey. This is what I'm feeling like, seriously. And that's part of your Emperor. You know what you want. You know what you want, and you go get it. And I do just think that here it's kind of telling you that you have infinite possibilities. If you wanted to meet someone and settle down tomorrow, you wouldn't, you know, you would hash out what would be involved in that. You know, you would think about it. It's not like you would just jump in, because that's another thing about the Emperor, is he evaluates. He's strategic. He's control. He's like, you know, a CEO doesn't just blindly, you know, make decisions. He evaluates all of the data and then makes the choice. But I think what it is that you have opportunities to really be whatever you want to be. And I do get the vibe right now that you're a very independent single woman, but you might have, like, you know, you might be considering, you know, serious relationship or settling down, because you're just at that stage and you're ready to do it. Now, your Lenormand cards are really quite beautiful as well. You got the Tower and you got Clouds. And now the Tower, the Tower in Lenormand is different than the Tower in Tarot, just so you know. The Tower in Tarot is a little bit of a shocking, sudden change that kind of is like a redo. It's like a reset. The Tower in Lenormand means independence, and it actually really does represent, like, if you almost look at the background of the Emperor, it does represent. It represents a little bit of solitude, but it represents solitude for the sake of a cause. It does kind of mean standing your own, kind of like the way the Emperor does. It means being a different type of. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. It's kind of that not really protecting yourself, but it's kind of, you see how the Emperor kind of has that distance, and you almost see it here too. They know what they want, and they're not afraid to stand alone in their ideas. You know what I mean? And that's another good attribute of an emperor or a leader, is that they're not afraid to they'll go up into the tower and just kind of be alone, or they'll stand apart with what they want to do in order to get what they want done. And the clouds usually means confusion, or it can mean that, the situation is causing you in confusion. And, here you've got indecision and you got the clouds, and these really do kind of go together. But the thing about the clouds is that there's always a dark side to the clouds, and then there's a light side, and it's like coming out of the dark. And what I see is whatever card is on the light side means that's the solution, or that's where you're going. And I know it seems kind of opposite. Normally it's left to right, but here I see the Tower being on the light side of the clouds. So again, I feel like it's the same thing with the Temperance and the indecision. I think if there might be new frontiers. There might be new frontiers to things, and you might have been pretty independent on your own. You might have kind of stood alone and really kind of stood apart with, what you wanted. But if you decided that you wanted to do something different, you control, you decide. It's all about your intention. I just think the way the Emperor manifests in your life is just that, you don't, it's your show, and you do what you want to do when you want to do, and you get what you want, Okay, deck number 1. That was interesting. I liked that. Go ahead and we'll put all your cards together. I do like those Nova cards there. They're very interesting. I want to use them a little bit more. All right, deck number 2, Morgan-Greer. Go ahead and sorry, horse. Okay, Morgan-Greer. This is the deck that talks to me. I love this deck. So, deck number 2. How does the Emperor manifest in their life? Okay. Right. And let's go ahead and get your lesson cards. How does the Emperor How does the Emperor manifest in deck number 2's? Ooh, okay. How does the Emperor All right, deck number 2. How does the Emperor manifest in your life? Well, to begin, you got the Five of Cups. And this dude has been kind of a regular. He was actually in the weekly energy card reading as the first position for deck 1. Then we got the Two of Pentacles. And then we got the Three of Pentacles, clarified by the King of Cups. And your journey card, you got self-esteem. And for your Nova card, you got the shadow. But remember, you got the good shadow. You got the black and white shadow, which is the positive manifestation. And we'll get into that in a minute. And for your Lenormand, you got the snake and you got the anchor. Now, what it is what I'm kind of seeing here. Let me go ahead and just get an overall feeling. Now, the way that I see the, and okay, so I'm going to be honest here, deck number 2. I think the way that the Emperor manifests in your life is that I think you have, you run into some trouble with the emotional side of life. I think sometimes you might be getting into emotional entanglements that leave you either disappointed or they just become convoluted and end up causing you pain or just causing you loss. And then the way that I think the Emperor manifests in your life is that I think the Emperor is something that you want to emulate. It's something that you want to be. And to kind of get away from all of this emotional kind of bad feeling, I think you work. I think you jump into work as a way to get away from bad feelings. Like anytime relationships start bringing you down, you throw yourself into work. Now, I see that the Two of Pentacles is the juggling card, and sometimes it can mean what it is in the background you normally see kind of a rocky sea, and sometimes when you are taking on so much, it is a little bit of a sign that sometimes you take on a little bit more than what you can handle. Sometimes if you've got relationships going and then you got work going and then you got life going, it becomes a juggle. It becomes something that you kind of have to keep on top of, and it's almost like you can't let anything drop. You got to keep all of the balls in the air, right? But you can be going through some kind of heavy feelings. You might be dealing with a sense of loss, but then you say, okay, even though it feels a little overwhelming at times, let me go ahead and just really pour myself into my work. And then what I see is the fact that you kind of have 3 cups here and then you have 3 pentacles here. Now, he's not seeing the 2 cups behind him. He's not even ready to turn around and see those yet. But the thing that I see is that I see that the King of Cups is the real mature, he's emotionally mature kind of guy. And I just get this feeling that somewhere in juggling work responsibilities or diving into work responsibilities, it makes you feel more mature. It makes you one step closer to becoming that Emperor. And the fact that the King of Cups is a very, he's an emotionally mature guy. Honestly, he tends to be a married guy, but not necessarily, he doesn't have to be. But what it is he's the guy who really understands his heart well. He treats other people with respect emotionally. And I think something about cooperating with people. The other thing is that in the traditional Rider-Waite Smith, the Three of Pentacles is the cooperation with other people card. And I think something about working in a work environment, I think working with other people, not necessarily romantically, but working with other people in a work environment, I think it helps develop your emotional maturity. Where you don't get, by doing this in a work field, you learn a lot more emotional levelness that it keeps you out of these kind of entanglements, or it teaches you about people in a safe way where it makes your relationships better. And I think that's the way that the Emperor, again, he's like the patriarch, he's the guy who teaches you how to do things. He's the man's man, what it is to be a man. And I think something about, working hard at something in a very honest way, even though it becomes a lot, even though you're taking on a lot and learning a lot, it just makes you a lot more of a mature person. Now, it really plays into this, and it's funny, you're seeing all these reds and golds with the pentacles, you're seeing all these reds and yellows, and then you got a really red and yellow and purple too. In the self-esteem card, I possess gifts of the soul that benefit me and others. So I also think that, again, by being in, by working with others or working in a job, I think it makes you feel good about yourself too. I think it helps you recognize that you're not this failure, you're not this loss. I think it makes you feel like you can become the emperor. And I think it makes you feel like more like this guy. It makes you feel like a better man, a better person. And again, this can be male or female. A female can represent the king. Now, for your Lenormand cards, you got snake and you got anchor. Now, the snake's been coming up a lot lately too, and I've been giving them kind of the nice descriptors where it's, transformation and, but to be honest, the snake can be sexuality. It can be seduction. It can be manipulation. It can also be jealousy. And so here I'm kind of thinking that, and the fact that the crown that the king wears, it does look like, his headdress kind of does look a little serpentine, I'm not reading this in a bad way, but I do think that, maybe some of the woes in it being on this side, and we're going to get into the shadow in a minute, but I do think that there's kind of some shadow tendencies that either pertain around either seduction or not being entirely truthful, might be in play here. And there might be some way of, again, by you pouring your energy into a different area of your life, I think it helps teach you how to handle or how to stay away from that. Because you also got the anchor, which anchor is enduring. It's endurance. It means, sticking something out or really, persevering. And, it being kind of water related and you see the boat, I do just think that, you are, what you put your mind to, you really do stick out. And I think it helps with your self-esteem and it makes you feel like that emperor. It's like, okay, also, maybe I'm also getting a vibe that maybe in some areas of your life you don't commit very much, but work is something that you can commit to, and that makes you feel better. It's like, okay, if you've ever taken any slings and arrows for not really committing fully to something or, juggling, I think it helps prove to you that there is something that's constant. And that is another attribute that's really beautiful about the emperor, is that he's constant. He's very steady. He's reliable. And that's, every empress, they want an emperor. Sometimes, he trumps kings in the way that, he is. He's the man. He really is. Now the shadow is, it says, something unknown beckons mysteriously. What seems scary is actually promising. Be brave. It can also mean a tactical retreat into the shadows. So that's the other thing about the snake, is that he goes into the shadows. Snaky, you talk about somebody slithering away, but again, snakes can also mean transformation. They shed their skin. And again, this is the shadow in the good way. This is the shadow in the good response. So maybe it can also tell you that you do want to explore, you know, you may want to kind of exercise that dark side. You might want to go into, you might want to really, and again, the Emperor controls. The Emperor controls. So here, you might want to use that strategy. You might want to use that tactical, you know, and really ask yourself, okay, you know, what is, you know, it's saying be brave. It's saying go into this side and kind of figure out why this happens, right? You know, why does this happen? You know, is it because I'm jealous? Is it because, you know, I really just don't want to settle down? You know, what is it that, you know, makes me feel this way about this area of my life, but then makes me feel that way about that area of my life? And what it'll do is it'll help you, you know, it does help your self-esteem, because I'll tell you, nothing brings you down worse than not accepting some part of yourself. When you don't accept yourself, it's almost like you're telling yourself that there's something wrong with you. And there's nothing wrong with you. There's just parts of yourself that you haven't analyzed, you haven't looked at, you haven't, you know, and you can ask yourself, if you're a man, you can say, what kind of man do I want to be? You know, what kind of person do I want to be? And what is stopping me from being that person? You know, and again, that's what the tarot does. It asks you to ask these questions. So if you know, if you're asking yourself, okay, you know, what's stopping me from being this emperor? And, you know, what is it about, you know, what gives, you know, what areas of my life give me this great self-esteem, and what areas, you know, take away from that? And, you know, the Emperor will help you really kind of analyze that and get to the root of what that's about. But, okay, deck number 2. I always love the Morgan-Greer cards. Those are always really great. No. Not to be biased or anything. It's just my favorite, one of my favorite decks. We'll put our eagle out front there. All right. Deck number 3. The LineStrider Tarot. And our bear. We'll keep our bear over there. So deck number 3. How does the Emperor manifest? Oof. Oh, guys, what is with the 5 of Cups? Dudes. Okay, I'm going to get one more card. Well, one more card? No. Okay, is that it? Okay, you didn't get any naked bits yet. I do have emojis at the ready because there's some naked parts in these cards, but anything else for Emperor? Okay, here, we'll go ahead and move that there because I am getting that vibe. All right. So deck number 3. How does the Emperor manifest in your life? I'm sorry, it keeps going out of focus. I think I finally figured out the microphone thing, though. That's a real beautiful message, actually. Yeah, I'm hoping the microphone isn't as low in volume this time around. So deck number 3, how does the Emperor manifest in their life? Oh. Deck number 3, how does the Emperor manifest? Yeah, buddy. All right. I'll tell you, starting next week, or maybe when this whole Mercury retrograde gets over with, we need to start seeing less and less of these 5 of Cups. I'm getting tired of that. Sorry, nothing personal, but we need happy. All right. The cards are almost talking to me with that. All right, so deck number 3, how does the Emperor manifest in your life? You got the 7 of Wands. You got the 5 of Cups. And again, we need to stop. We've had, this guy's been popping up everywhere. You got the Ace of Wands. And then for your journey card, you got Success. I know that there is no greater goal than to love. You got, for your Nova card, you got the Mountain. And everyone got the positive Nova cards. I'm so excited. And then for your Lenormand, you got the cross and you got the key. And ooh, this is some good stuff. And again, I feel like deck 3 or pile 3, the third deck is always really, really strong. I feel like that's my readers. I don't know what it is, like fellow New Agers. I just get this strong vibe. But the way that the Emperor manifests in your life is, I definitely feel like the way the Emperor manifests in your life is in a little bit more, you know, I'm getting a little bit more of a Hard Knocks vibe with this Emperor. I feel like the reason that the Emperor is manifesting in your life is because you've kind of been through the school of tough learning. Here you have the Seven of Wands. In the traditional Rider-Waite Smith, it's the person standing on the high ground, holding a stick against 6 other people. And I really do love this depiction because, and you know how we're talking about Aries, and that's mountain goats can be more Capricorn, but he does almost look like a ram a little bit there. And then you see you've got like all these bickering people at your feet, but you see how the goat or the ram is kind of standing on a ledge, and he's got the high ground, right? He's kind of rising above all this, you know, all this, and there's a lot of red, there's a lot of action too. And then in the middle we got the Five of Cups, and what it is you see an owl, and this is a very wise symbol, and the owl is looking down at 3 cracked eggs, but they're really not really looking at the 2 eggs that remain. And then you got one of my favorites. This is the Ace of Wands, and you got the fox. And what this kind of tells me, and what the vibe that I get, is that I think that your wisdom or your Emperor, the reason that, you know, the way that you manifest your Emperor is because I think you have seen a lot of conflict in your life. I think you've seen a lot of conflict, and I think you've experienced your fair share of loss. And I think what it is if you even look at the expression on this goat or this ram's face, you can kind of see that he's not really in the fray. He's kind of looking wide-eyed out in the distance, and everybody else is right in the middle of this really heated conflict. It's like it's almost bloody. It's like if one person makes the wrong move, there's going to be carnage. And all the goat wants to do is he's just looking out in the distance like, how do I get away from this? How do I walk past this without being harmed? How can I sidestep this conflict? And it's almost I just get this vibe like, you have, it's like you almost rule, or the way that your Emperor is definitely wisdom, in the sense that you've seen so much, or you've experienced so much that it's, you know the value of picking your battles. You know the value of picking your battles. And what I see here is, with the owl and the broken eggs, this is again that very sad energy of Five of Cups. Again, the Five of Cups in every deck is so poignant, because it is being preoccupied with what has failed, right? It's being preoccupied with what has failed and not really turning to see what still is good. And this does kind of play into what I was talking about having kind of the gray colored glasses on. And it's important not to stay in that energy too long. You do want to turn around eventually, but it is also important to mourn. And then what I see, though, is that this experience, sidestepping really bad conflict, or having to, navigate through really tough conflict, really, and experiencing loss too. And again, the expression on this owl's face, owls are very wise, they're very communicative, and it almost makes it more painful for me to see this card, because I just feel like, it seems like you're a wise person, like you took all of the right steps, you did everything that you wanted, that you were supposed to do in order for those eggs to hatch and be healthy and be happy. And it didn't work out, and that's nobody's fault, but you just see how crushed the poor owl is. It's like, wow, I tried everything that I could and it still didn't work, at least for this side, right? But then you go on and you see the Ace of Wands. And the Ace of Wands is always such a beacon of hope. It means new energy, it means new spirit, it means the breakthrough of something after going through all this, after learning all this, and it making you a leader, right? It taught you what you were supposed to know. It gives you the ability, and foxes, again, you know, as a spirit animal, foxes get kind of a bad reputation. They get the reputation of being a little bit of the cunning and sneaky. But the other thing about foxes is that they also are very smart, but they know what's best for them too. And I think, again, you kind of go from a wide-eyed, you know, kind of goat to a very pensive and perspective owl, and then finally you kind of evolve into this fox where, you know, you know how to navigate, right? By the time you've had all this experience, you know what's best for you, you know how to get it. And definitely I do kind of think of the Emperor. If you almost look kind of at the expressions, you know, the expression on the fox and the expression on the Emperor too. And foxes are red, you know, and you see how much red is, the Emperor is all red, right? He's the action guy. And but I think it's okay to be a fox, you know what I mean? Especially when you've been through, you know, fool me once, shame on, you know, you, fool me twice, shame on me. I think it's a little bit of street smarts too, I think. And what it does is when you get into your oracle card, it says success. I know that there is no greater goal than to love. And I think what a lot of these lessons have been is that I think you learn a lot of unconditional love, but you've definitely taken your hits for it. And that's probably one of the most painful lessons ever, you know, when you go into something really innocent and you end up, you know, getting really hurt from it, but then later you do gain that cunningness, you gain that self-sufficiency, you know, and you will start saying, what do I want to do? You know what I mean? And maybe you've earned it, you know, not all, you know, me first is selfish. You know, especially if you really had to hold your ground, or you had to state your boundaries, you had to learn that, and it developed those Emperor qualities, and it brings you success. You know how you can give love without making yourself a martyr, you know? Now, your Lenormand cards are really two of the most beautiful cards, and I'll tell you, you're not alone. I get the cross quite a lot, and I know it seems a little biblical, but what the cross is karma. You know, it's a little bit more of a karma card, but the cross means a cross to bear. It definitely means a tough journey. It means a tough journey, but it's a journey that teaches you valuable things. And what it is that you might have had either relationships or situations in your life that were really kind of tough on you. And even though they were tough on you, they taught you valuable lessons. It kind of made you metamorphosize into the fox. And it also promises, it can also kind of mean that you're still in the middle of this journey. It can still mean that, you know, you might still have a little bit of this, you know, this burden to bear, this cross to bear. But I promise you that it serves a greater purpose too. It serves a greater purpose. It helps to develop you as a person, and it helps to carry you along your journey, because the other part of it is the key is the breakthrough. The key is the opening up. It's the solution. It's the journey. It's the knowledge. And actually, when you look at this, it almost looks like he's carrying a key in his hand, right? you know? And what it is the key is unlocking something. It's unlocking potential. It's unlocking strength. It's unlocking, you know, instinct. It's it's been the way the Emperor shows up in your life is you've had a tough road. You've had a tough road. You've had to stay ahead above. You've had to take your hits, and you've had to be almost a little bit selfish in some things in a balanced way, because you were carrying a lot. You were carrying burdens, and it was hard on you. But, you know, being the Fox or being the Ace of Wands is a wonderful card. It means that you have new beginnings. It means that you can start the things and attain the things that you want to attain, and success. There is no greater goal than to love, right? You know, and you can set, you know, boundaries. You can be the Emperor. And honestly, you earn respect with that too. You earn respect, you know. When you've been through some life events and then you say, okay, I'm not going to be taken advantage of. I'm not going to have anything like this happen again. I'll still love people. I'll still care for people, but, you know, I'm not a martyr. I'm not here to be anybody's, you know, beating person, you know. That's what puts you into the Emperor energy. That's what makes people respect you. And it also carries you along your journey. It carries you and it gets you to learn what you need to learn. And then the last card, which I think plays into this so well, is you got the Mountain. And the Mountain stands for exhilarating, rewarding effort, successfully meeting challenges, and having somewhere to go. And I sometimes look at the Ace of the Wands like it's a walking stick. Have you ever seen, you know, when someone takes a walking stick and goes hiking, you know? Having someplace to go, and again, you know, unlocking new paths, unlocking new things. So I think that your path and your journey, this deck seems like, this choice seems a little bit more of an overarching energy in your life, but I think you've definitely had some journeys. You've had some journeys in your life, but I think you're doing marvelously well. I think you're invoking your Emperor. You're becoming the Emperor in the way that, you know, you've very honestly approached everything in your life, and you've come out on top. You've had some painful, you've had some loss, but, you know, it makes you stronger. It makes you stronger, and it definitely makes you take no crap too. You know that it's safe for you to love, but, you know, it tests your mettle, and when it tests your mettle, you come out the victor. You come out a very developed and strong person. Okay, deck number 3. Well, I really enjoyed all 3 of these. I know this is probably my longest video yet. I've been still trying to streamline these the How to Tarot, but I definitely wanted to, you know, talk about, you know, some of those transits going on. So I thought that was important to talk about. But okay. Well, I just wanted to fill you in, and I thank you for joining me. We will be doing, this Thursday. So this Thursday I have a special Halloween post, and that will be out first things at 7 a.m. and I'll announce the theme at that time. I wanted it to be a surprise because it's a real special one, and so that'll be out bright and early. So so you don't have to drop everything to watch it, but because I know you'll be out trick or treating, but or enjoying your Halloween. But if you get a chance, please check it out. I had a really fun time filming it. And then this Saturday we're going to be doing. I'm going to reiterate a lot of what I talked about with the transits this Saturday for the weekly energy card reading, and we'll go over that some more. And then this Sunday we have one more post. It'll be November 3rd. I can't believe November's here already. But on November 3rd we have one more special post, and I will post it first thing in the morning as well. So, but I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to see you Thursday. And I hope you have a good rest of your week. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.